this final, taking out seeds who were ahead of them in the pecking order. So really good one, both relatively young men. You'd say Amancool on paper with a better resume. He's been in with some really good fighters. You mentioned Kizhniak, who back in 2017 was just on a right good roll. He was terrorising everybody at that time, so no disgrace there in losing that World Championship final in Hamburg. So he just, I think, the man in blue have the slightly better read here, but we'll see.
You look at the back there on side Jamshid Jafarov, he is solidly built. You get some real units of 75 kilos. I've always wondered how on earth Arlen Lopez managed to squeeze it all into 75 kilos. That was a really tight, good fight they had, Amancool and Lopez, in the World Championships in 2017. At that stage, the Cuban was world champion, Olympic champion, and very much the man to beat. So that was a huge win for a very young Amancool at that point. He's still only 23.
And he's the elder statesman, just and only just. So this is two fighters who've already achieved plenty with decent records, but the future's pretty bright too.
Well, this is Amancool's 249th fight, which is amazing, really, when you consider the age of the year. So midway through round one, leading off with that right hand. He does like to do that, the fighter in blue. Just reaching in behind his left a little bit there, Jafarov. I mentioned Israel Madrimov as well. He was a real force in that middleweight division before he turned over pro. He did actually go to the Asian Championships in 2019, Madrimov, along with Jalilov, but he got knocked out at the quarter-final stage, and that kind of brought things to an end for him in an Uzbek vest. Nice 1-2 from Amancool. Got home down the middle.
Oh, the competition's so stiff. I mean, you know, Andy, if you win a national championship for Kazakhstan, you're one of the best in the world, make no mistake, and it's the same for Uzbekistan as well. And he only lost once in WSB as well, didn't he, Amancool, and that was to Arlen Lopez, who you mentioned before. And Lopez, probably my favourite elite fighter of the last decade, I'd probably have to say. Terrific talent, the Cuban.
Closing stages of round one. Nicely timed left hand there from Amancool as Jafarov came forward just slightly clumsily. Just falling short with the 1-2 there. Jafarov, bell goes at the end of the first round. Amancool in blue of Kazakhstan makes his way back to the corner. Jafarov of Uzbekistan, he's in the red.
Just felt that the difference between them in that round was twofold, Andy. One, that Amancool seemed to be doing much of what he wanted to do, and Jalilov was maybe reactive. And the other thing was the defence. He was just getting out of range, Amancool. He was making Jalilov miss, and I thought those two things were just enough for him in that first round.
Loses his balance slightly as he comes forward every now and again. Jafarov kind of leans into it. Did get home with a couple, but Amancool, I think, has seen that, looking to try and just back off a little bit when he sees Jafarov come forward like that. So 1 round down, 75 kilos.
Interesting change in the play here at the start of this second round, with Amancool coming forward, looking to press the action. And this is quite an aggressive start to the round from him. He's doing it intelligently, though.
Nice left hand to the body there from Jafarov, who's just keeping this a little bit more on the outside and And then again, as he throws that left hand, that is a technical flaw that he does have. He comes over the top of that front foot, loses that balance as he throws that left, but if he follows it in onto the shoulder, then it kind of minimises the damage. Set his feet nicely there and threw a left to the body, then a left up top. Again, the physicality of him is pretty extraordinary, Jafarov, isn't it? Look at those shoulders.
Yeah, and the arms as well, very, very long arms. You feel these are assets to him, and he's still quite young as well. I don't think Andy's implying that, you know, light heavyweight probably beckons sooner rather than later for the man in red. He's maybe just quelled Amankool through the first minute and a half here. I was really interested by the way Amankool came out, thrown the right hand to the body, slightly under the high guard as well, pressing the action. He's not been as effective as I thought he might be.
No, he's looking for a way in, isn't he? But he hasn't really found one just yet. And whilst he's been looking, Jafarov has been doing some fairly effective punching. Decent left hand there from him again. But there's a nice 1-2 there from Amankool, and the referee steps in with a standing count there, and he doesn't like that too much, Jafarov. But as I reminded you earlier on, if you have a standing count given against you, that will not necessarily result in you losing the round 10-8. Not at all. It's all about interpreting dominance for the 5 ringside judges, and they will make up their own mind as to whether they feel that standing count was really necessary from the referee. But he saw a good solid punch land and was very, very swift to intervene.
Yeah, you wonder about that, don't you? Whether the judges will trust the referee. I suppose the one thing I should have mentioned as well is how effective, when he came out at the start of the round, Amankool, how effective, when he was pressing the action, how effective actually was he orthodox compared to when he's in the southpaw stance. That's another thing we'll bear in mind. You see, he's switched back. He seems to be having more success southpaw to my eye. And there he goes once again, landing another shot.
I would agree with that. I think he's definitely been more effective as a southpaw. And it's an interesting round, this one. As I said, the standing count there issued by the referee, but the way that Aiba Boxing is scored, that's not necessarily a crippling blow for Jafarov, who I thought through the first 2 minutes of that round did the better work. Amankool came back into it more in that final minute. There's not much in that one.
Yes, and was it a case of Jafarov through those first couple of minutes was kind of stealing punches, stealing points, and then the last minute was really effective, heavier shot pressure from Amankool? I suppose you balance off the two conversations there. I wonder if maybe Amankool will abandon the high guard orthodox approach, because there's no doubt at all he's much more effective, or looked seemingly effective through the first and second rounds when actually he was in southpaw. And there's the mouth guard going. That was a huge 1-2. He landed another left hand, and I suppose when you see the slow motion shots there, you can understand why the referee might have moved in. He's so close to the action, and it also underlines how heavy some of those shots that were being landed. Fewer shots, but heavier shots from Amankool.
Yeah, it was a really good bit of work from Amankool. The gum shield came out, then the referee steps in with the standing count. I didn't make him wrong to do it. He made the decision nice and quick too. Just digging his toes in and looking to lead off with the right uppercut there. Jafarov, who has done some decent work in that second round, is doing some decent work at the start of this round as well. The kind of dynamic of the fight is that Amankool's the boss when you look at it. He's the one who seems to be dictating terms, but it's about who lands what. And that balancing act in the second round wouldn't have been all that easy for the judges, because his work in that final minute, as you said, it was more authoritative, wasn't it? He put more of a stamp on things, whereas Jafarov was more of a kind of heavy-handed cat burglar. He's in, throws a couple, gets back out again, and it's a similar kind of rhythm and theme to this third round so far. Nice left hand on the inside there from Jafarov. This has been a good fight, and I think we're going to have a very entertaining finish here too.
Indeed. He's picking some shots nicely. There's too much aggression from Amankul in this round, and that was rather uncalled for. That was a wrestling move from Jafarov. I'm pretty sure he picked him up by the feet there, and he had to dip down to do it. I'm not quite sure what all of that was about, but there's been a bullying style about the way that Amankul has gone about this, and that's at the expense of his boxing on occasion. I think too much so. I'm enjoying his attitude, and it really is getting slightly out of hand here, Andy, in spells. There, Amankul just using a little bit of the head in that close-up exchange. I think they're annoying and irking each other. This really is a fight.
Well, I'll make you absolutely right there. Jafarov just kind of dipped his knees, almost scooped Amankul up behind the knees there and dumped him on his back. The referee, I think, was blindsided a bit, didn't really see it into the final minute. And again, we've got a very similar third round to the second round. The fighter throwing more and landing a decent amount is Jafarov, and Amankul looking to be more aggressive into this final minute towards the end of the round. But he's taken some risks here, Amankul, I think, by just not letting his hands go enough. That's a good jab followed by a left hand there. They both need to try and find a strong finish here.
Landed 3 big punches there, Amankul, in that exchange. It is the same story, as you say, as the previous round. Not quite as effective, Amankul, as he had done in the previous round, but he's landed some telling shots right at the end of it. That was fiercely competitive.
It was a great third and final round, that, as those two looked to really get stuck into each other. And as you said, there was a bit of fun and games in there as well, with Jafarov dumping Amankul on his back, and then Amankul just coming in with a header touch as well. There's no great celebrations from either corner, and I do make this one an interesting one to score, because Amankul, for me, could have done more. If he doesn't get this, I think he will absolutely kick himself. He will know that he could have let his hands go more.
The winner by split decision in the red corner, representing Uzbekistan.
And Jafarov gets it for Uzbekistan via split decision, and for all the reasons we've been outlining, it was difficult to score. 29-28, 4 of them in favour there of Said Jamshid Jafarov. He beat the #1 seed in the semi-finals, and he's beaten Amankul, the much decorated Amankul, in the final. And you always have to give props to the winner, always. But I think Amankul, I think he got that slightly wrong.
Well, the fight seemed like it was there for the taking for him from the second round onwards, and whether he decided that was the way he wanted to go about it, whether the corner advised them that it was close and he really had to show something more in the third round. I think the balance between aggression and technique, he didn't quite strike the right balance, and maybe more composure from Jafarov. Just wondered about the body language at the end there. Jafarov was wildly celebrating that. I wasn't sure whether he entirely believed it personally, but he picked some of his shots and he kept his composure, and he was under a lot of pressure. And it just shows you your point about the standing count, which we wondered about at the time, but you saw the replay. There we go again. It was a really heavy shot. He was boxing on, Jafar, but he took 2 heavy shots, so you can understand why the referee stepped in. It was an intriguing, fascinating fight to watch, and I suspect that Amankul will be disappointed, hugely disappointed and frustrating that he didn't get the vote. But also, I'm sure when he looks back on that contest, that he'll see there are things that he could have done differently.
He always looked menacing, didn't he? He was stalking, he was swaggering, he looked full of threat, but never quite delivered on it.